But Peter, it sounds a little bit like this is a utopic vision of society. What is one example you have seen that you believe that this will work because you've seen it happen?
Well, first of all, utopia assumes a finality. There's no such thing as a finality. We're just trying to update society to present-day knowledge. Remember, our notions of economics and politics are based on traditional ideas that go back hundreds, if not thousands of years. These are completely outdated social structures that do not resemble any of our scientific ingenuity at this point in time and our ability to actually care for the human population, which is what a society is supposed to do, right? The best example you can have are First Nations people that actually understood what it meant to live off the land. They understood the carrying capacity of their region. They understood that you don't pollute the stream that they drink from, which is something industry does every single day right now for its necessity to maintain cost efficiency.
Okay, Peter, let me ask you this then.
It's a very simplistic notion.
Let me ask you this then.
Okay.
I don't want to go back and work the land. I love what I do. I'm a journalist. I enjoy it a lot. I'm not just going to give that up. So how do you actually make what you're talking about happen?
Well, the biosocial pressures that will emerge, that will inhibit your life, that will inhibit the lives of your family, inhibit the lives of everyone else on this planet through time as this system completely deteriorates, will make you question what you value with respect to what you like to do. It's not an issue of what any of us like, okay? It's an issue of what is right and what's sustainable for the human species, what will actually work for us as a society without causing conflict and all of the deprivation and problems that continue to deteriorate our standard of living and create much less safety through society. So if you're to ask a question, oh, well, I like to do this, you have to ask yourself why you like to do that. Is there anything in your history maybe that you like to do other than that? Is there anything in your childhood that you aspired to that maybe you couldn't do because you had to find a wedge into this system to make sure you got it paid for your occupation, which is what all of us have to do? So it's a kind of an open question. So I think when people begin to evaluate what's happening now, they will change their values. They will begin to see, well, maybe I should contribute to society. You're speaking to a person who worked at Wall Street and advertising, two of the most meaningless occupations on the planet. I know very much about values because I used to identify with those types of things. I asked myself, what am I doing? What am I actually doing to contribute to society, this waste of my brain? If everyone actually was on a plane where they could contribute to society, to invent, to engage in a democratic process, to create the world around us, technically, that would be a beautiful state. We would have many Einsteins, many Da Vincis, many powerful minds emerge that are not oppressed by this necessity to come into a monetary system that restricts their possibility.
But what incentivizes them if they don't have the ability to gain anything other than the good of, the people?
They're gaining much more than they'd ever gain in this system. They're gaining a peace of mind. They're gaining an understanding. They're gaining the resources that they need. They're gaining a community. They're gaining not a competitive, oscillating, defensive posture where you're always out for yourself in this primitive capitalist system that we have today, which, by the way, is a pseudo-social system because it's assumed by the invisible hand that everyone fighting amongst themselves is somehow going to manifest for the greater good, which is provably not the case. So what we have here is a different value orientation where when you contribute to society, it comes back to you. So if I have an amazing invention, I invent it not because I want monetary gain. I know when I invent it, it comes back to me just as it goes to everyone else. And when everybody else invents something or comes up with a new idea, it comes to them and everyone else as well. The social interest must become, self-interest must become social interest if we expect to survive as a species.
Peter,
otherwise, you're going to see...
Peter, it doesn't seem like we would be able to convince a large number of people to do this without conflict. And some would argue, for example, that the Bolshevik Revolution showed rulers of the world at that time what happens if you don't listen to the have-nots, which are who suffers in the capitalist system that you're critical of. Are we at that moment again yet?
Well, I wouldn't conflate such issues. First of all, you have to step back and look at the technical orientation. You can't say, oh, this will never happen because of where we are today. That's the wrong train of thought. If everyone thought like that, we wouldn't be anywhere. If you realize the technical orientation of what's possible to meet the needs of the human population, to eliminate war if we simply work together, to share resources, to create almost an infinite amount of energy if we applied our technology correctly, if we actually applied these things from the ground up, realizing the train of thought, there's no argument. to what we can do from here. It's simply a matter of getting it done. And in my experience, however, as I engage this movement and I begin to talk to people about this issue, I'm amazed at how fast they realize it. There might be some baggage there, but you're eventually going to hit an exponential increase of people who want a massive social change. Why? Because they have to have it. Their survival depends on it.
But what is it going to be in the form of? Some kind of revolution?
Well, it depends how you define revolution. The real revolution is a revolution of values, not a violent revolution, not a revolution of overcoming the state. The Zeitgeist movement's work is here to bring in people with a common value set in a global community, which is why we're a global entity, obviously. And from that pressure, from this mere understanding, change will be effective. Now, I could go on other tangents about how civil disobedience and different programs could emerge within the movement, but that's irrelevant at this point. If people understand, as the human species as a whole, what's possible, what the real problem is, and what the solution actually is, then it becomes a self-correcting system. The problem is educational. And I think even politicians, even the highest level people in government will wake up to this as well, and eventually the transition will emerge on its own accord.
That's pretty optimistic considering how much the political elite benefit from their power. But I appreciate you being here to kind of sort this all out with me and tell us your theories and answer some of the questions that come out of them. That was Peter Joseph, filmmaker and founder of the Zeitgeist movement, fresh off of the Zeitgeist Festival.